And now, if we can turn to our next guest, Nicole Procopenko is the curator of the Social Power of Music for the Smithsonian's Folklife Festival. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Amy. How are you?
Hi, doing well. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And so Nicole is here to introduce the DC Music Map, which is a phenomenal project. And so Nicole, maybe you want to start us off by just giving an overview of the project?
Sure, yeah. I wrote this part down because I didn't want to forget anything, so pardon me for reading off the paper. But the DC Music Map, it's a digital map that seeks to pinpoint how music enriches our lives. So it invites people to upload either an audio or video clip, which then gets pinned to an address. The result is a patchwork of music memories that should lend an insight into Washington, D.C.'s layered music history. So I can let me share my screen and I can walk everybody through it. Okay, turn my video off for this. Okay. So I'm just gonna, basically the map allows you to upload either an audio or a video. Each of the star points is a point that somebody has uploaded, and the larger stars kind of represent hotspots. So if you just kind of click around and you can kind of see what is happening. I'll let this play for a second. Here's a photo of Inner Ear Studios, which has been for over 30 years in Arlington, recording music, recorded some of the first punk bands in Washington, D.C. in the 80s. So it's a crowdsourced project that basically allows everybody, invites anybody from the public to upload kind of what is important to you in DC music. There's no restrictions on what you can upload except for like inappropriate content. But there's no really guidelines as far as if we're looking for produced music or, somebody's neighbor playing guitar on their porch. Like we're looking for everything. There's everything from recorded music, I think. Let me look for one. Excuse me. Um, you can zoom in a little bit using this top right corner. Somebody submitted one that I absolutely love right here, which is the cicadas from Brood X this spring. And then up here, I think this is Connecticut Avenue, somebody uploaded.
Any of you are familiar with a piece called Hold On Just a Little While Longer? It's an older song, spiritual, and I hope that you feel it as much as I do.
So it's a clip from a protest, which also includes images from the protest. So a lot of this stuff is timely, which is very cool. And there are some more historical things, like this is from 1941, a violin repair shop in downtown DC. And then also showing recent history. This is one of my favorite ones. For anybody not from DC listening, this is at the corner of 7th and Florida Avenue Northwest. It is the site of a cell phone store, which also sells go-go music CDs and plays go-go music outside pretty much during all business hours. And there was a controversy in 2019 with a new condo development. Somebody complained about the music being played, and go-go music is, DC's kind of endemic music, and it started a bunch of protests, including Don't Meet DC, which also turned into something called Mochella. And here's a photo from Mochella 2019. And I also love this one, not only because it highlights kind of the recent DC music history, but because that is exactly what that corner sounds like. And it's such a cool capture. And another thing that I'd like to highlight is we have this search bar here, and you can type in what you're looking for. So I did National Mall, and if you go down to the National Mall here, you can see all these little yellow suns. These yellow suns are supposed to represent the Smithsonian sun, and they highlight times that the Smithsonian Folklife Festival has highlighted DC music and worked with DC musicians. Definitely much more than the 10 here, but all of these suns represent a different kind of moment in the Smithsonian Folklife Festival history. So now I can walk you through how to upload. It's super easy. Basically, if you have an audio or an image, select which one you have. The process is basically the same, but the way it was coded didn't allow us to do the form on the one page. So basically, put in your title, what year the image was recorded. You pinpoint it to an address here, and just a note is to be respectful of privacy. If it's something that somebody may not want it pinned exactly on their address, maybe put it a block away or in the street or something like that. Description, the more detailed, the better. Your name, if you'd like to include it, and then upload your audio or image on the other one. And then when you go back to the map, it is in real time. It will get uploaded immediately, so you can check it out, get that instant satisfaction. And if you need a little bit of inspiration, I'd like to highlight another project here. This is a project that's called DC Wardscapes, and we commissioned 8 artists, one from each ward, to do kind of a soundscape of their neighborhood. And the purpose of it was to serve for inspiration for the music map, to get people excited to go out and record sounds of their neighborhood. I'm going to play just about 30 seconds of one. This was highlighting Ward 5, produced by local DC band Cigarette. So that's kind of the map in a nutshell. So we can go back, see if there's any questions.
Amazing. Nicole, maybe you can start out by just telling us how the map concept first came together.
Sure, that's kind of a long answer, but in 2018, my partner at the Smithsonian, Sojin Kim, and I were working on a program for the Smithsonian Folklife Festival and the Smithsonian Year of Music called DC, the Social Power of Music, which was to kind of highlight music communities in DC. And we had in 2018, a big meeting on the National Mall during the Folklife Festival, where we invited a lot of musicians and community members down to the mall to kind of talk about how they would like to see DC represented on like the national stage. And actually Jocelyn from DC Listening Lounge was there. And one thing that came up a lot during that meeting was people, being concerned, as people have been concerned for a long time in DC, about the rapid gentrification and rapid changing of the city. And I think, kind of losing music spaces. And we had talked about, well, what if we do a walking tour? What if we kind of put signs around the city and maybe do like an app? I had some experience working with digital maps before. I had done a project kind of capturing memories of Santa Rosa, California, which had been destroyed by fires in 2018. And basically, it kind of evolved into this digital project. And it seemed like a really cool and kind of equalizing way to invite everybody to be able to participate in what is important to them rather than us being able to pinpoint like 10 or 20 places.
It's amazing. It's so well done. One question we got was what's the oldest submission that you think you have on the map so far?
I think it's the violin repair shop that I showed.
It's 1941, is that right?
1941, yeah. There's a few punk flyers from the 80s which I didn't highlight, but before that I think it's the violin shop, yeah.
All right. Well, whoever asked that question should see if we can encourage more people to beat that record and see how far back in history we can go. One question I had was about the layering of history. You know, there are so many places in DC that have a very rich history and long relationship with music, thinking 930 Club or the Meridian Hill Drum Circle, and how the map functions to layer multiple submissions for the same location or throughout its different time periods.
Sure. So I didn't actually show when I was talking, but on the map, when you can see where there's the larger stars, those are kind of showing like hotspots. So if you zoom in to where the larger stars are, it will show when there's multiple submissions in one place. At this point, there's a few at 930 Club. There's a few kind of up in the Tenleytown area and like Fort Reno Park that kind of show throughout time, but that is definitely something that we hope to be able to capture more of. So if people have submissions for a point that is already has something on it, please put them, because it would be so cool to be able to see how it has changed throughout time.
You touched on this a little bit with the Metro PCS and Go-Go, but what do you think makes the DC music scene so unique?
Gosh, that's such an easy and such a hard question at the same time. I think one thing that makes the DC music scene so unique is the DC music scene is it's focused on itself. Like a lot of what happens in DC in the music scene is cool and interesting because it just kind of is there to exist and to express and, to entertain and to create community in DC. It isn't necessarily focused on like, we want to be a band so we can be popular, so we can go on tour and we can make a lot of money. I find that the community in DC is so unique because it's just like, we're gonna put on a concert at Comet Ping Pong and 10 people are gonna come and it's still gonna be a great time. And it's just, acceptable. And I think a lot of that is, caused by the DC music scene in the 80s when both punk and go-go kind of were coming up at the same time and was focused in on itself. And that tradition has kind of continued.
Absolutely. I know we have some folks tuning in from outside of DC or hopefully around the world. Why do you think, or what do you think that this project could illuminate? I think people think of DC as just sort of the federal government, or think of it as, this place that has these large sort of overpowering institutions. But, like you said, punk was born here, go-go is from here. We have these communities that grow and thrive here. What do you think that this map can do to spread that story?
Yeah, actually the kind of subtitle for our DC, the Social Power of Music project, was In the Shadow of the Capitol, which was something that Ian Mackay had said at our meeting on the mall. It's kind of like all of these cool cultural musical communities are happening in the shadow of the Capitol. And for people who are outside of DC, sometimes it almost seems like there are two DCs. There is what happens on the National Mall within the federal government downtown, and kind of something that a lot of tourists and visitors to the city may never leave downtown, which is fine. They're there to see the monuments, etc. But there is, and this is actually, I think, particularly timely with like DC's current fight for statehood. There are a lot of people that live there and a lot of people that have nothing to do with politics or the federal government, and DC has its own culture. and its own communities who deserve to be represented and kind of deserve to have more attention paid to it rather than just the, you know, the federal seat downtown.
Wonderful. We have about a minute left. Is there anything else that you want to make sure people know or to share about the map?
No, I just want to encourage everybody to upload. The more that we have, the better. And I just kind of, again, wanted to reiterate that, like, anything that you think is cool musically, any type of memory that you have, like, it's all cool, it's all valid, like whether it's like your friend drumming in your living room or whether it's a performance that you saw at the anthem. All of it would be great.
Yeah, everyone upload. If you are just joining us, this is the DC Music Map. You can Google it, and it's a project that was started with the Smithsonian's Folklife Festival. So if you see Smithsonian Folklife, you're in the right place. But submissions are ongoing, and we know that there's so much history and so many stories and so much music to share. So please download your pictures, upload your pictures, your music clips, your videos, all on the map. And we look forward to seeing more of your submissions. And thank you so much, Nichole.
Thank you, Amy. Thank you, everyone.